Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 week away from the NFL draft. First off, I could not be more excited. Second off, I'm a little bit sad because I've loved doing these mock drafts for you. This will be my 8th mock draft of the 2025 NFL offseason, and it is my second to last. The final one will come out next week right before the draft actually happens, but I'm giving you mock draft 8.0 right now. Let's get you all caught up on where the Ravens sit going into this one. They have 11 draft picks currently. The first one is their round 1 selection, pick number 27. They've got 2 fourth-round picks, 4 sixth-round selections, and they round it all out with pick number 243 in the 7th round. I need you guys, before we get into any of the selections, break down any of the top prospects, I need you guys to do one big favor for me. Hit that subscribe button. I just need 17 loyal members of the flock to push me over to get to 30,000 subscribers. The biggest milestone yet in this channel, and you guys could be the ones to get me there. Help me out. Hit that big red sub button. Lock us in for the best coverage you're going to find right here on YouTube. Let's go to round 1, shall we? A guy we've drafted before and a guy I legitimately think there's a chance that Baltimore could draft. Give me defensive end James Pearce Jr. out of the University of Tennessee. And guys, I love James Pearce Jr., okay? And I've talked about it before. I'm going to continue to talk about it. I think there's a really good chance that this is the pick. Okay, I think James Pearce, because of the character issues that have come out over the last couple of months or so, I think he falls at least to you right here. There's some mock drafts that I see him falling the second round. I don't think that if he falls to 27, Baltimore is going to pass up, okay? Now, there is something interesting to note that I want to bring to light. Jeff Zrebeck tweeted this out earlier this week. He was in for the Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh press conference, and DeCosta said that 15 prospects are off the Ravens board for either failing physicals or other red flags. Sound like that's a pretty typical number for the Ravens heading into the draft. So the one big question I have is, was James Pearce Jr. one of those 15? Is he one of those 15 that Baltimore sees some kind of a red flag in that they put him off his board? I don't think that he is. Okay, I get it. I've heard the rumors before about him not being a good culture fit, about him maybe not loving the game of football as much as you'd want him to. But I think Pearce needs a mature franchise with a great culture, okay? I think his career can go one of 2 different ways. If he lands in a place like Baltimore, in a place like Green Bay, in a place where they've established winning culture over decades, then I think he's going to turn out to have a really good career. Or he could end up in a place like Las Vegas, a place like the New York Jets, the Cleveland Browns, somewhere like that, who have kind of lost their way over the last couple of decades. They don't have a great culture. They don't have a winning culture. They're not a mature franchise. And his career could take a totally different path. All of that to say, I think he'd be a great, great fit with the Baltimore Ravens. Red pen time. Get those out. Grade the pick for me and throw it back to grade school. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F on my selection of James Pearce Jr. in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. You're about to get hit with that YouTube ad break. Don't worry about it. Just go down the comment section, find this pinned comment, and give me your answer. All right, let's go to round 2. Give me Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of the Notre Dame, fighting Irish. I think Benjamin Morrison is one of those guys who, if 2024 went a little bit differently, if he was healthy for all of 2024, which unfortunately he was not, I think he'd be a first-round selection, okay, because he's got the tools, he's got the talent, but unfortunately he only played in just 6 games. In those 6 games, 20 tackles, 4 pass breakups, didn't have an interception, right? Nothing that absolutely jumps off the page. But what does jump off the page, in my opinion, is the current state of the Baltimore Ravens depth chart. Chidobe Awuzie, if we went out on the field right now, would be the starting cornerback for this franchise. I have a lot of faith in Nate Wiggins, got a lot of faith in Marlon Humphrey, and I think Cheeto and TJ Tampa would be great depth options. I don't know how I feel about either of them starting, okay? So I truly believe that if Benjamin Morrison gets selected, he gets a full offseason to prepare, get ready. I think he could give either of those guys a run for their money to be that starting cornerback next to Nate Wiggins, next to Marlon Humphrey. And I think this whole secondary could take a massive jump up because of it. Let's go to round 3, shall we? I finally address the offensive line. Give me Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia, and I'm not just taking him because he's got a mullet, and I think it's pretty dang sick. But I think that Tate Ratledge is going to be a really, really good player in this league. He's been such a consistent starter for Georgia. He's also one of those Swiss Army knives. You can kind of put him really wherever you want. And I think he has a chance to be the day one starter on this team, okay? Think about this offensive line. You're not worried about the tackles. You're not worried about the center. You're worried about the two guards. Daniel Falele showed some flashes. He also wasn't that great at some points in the 2024 season. Andrew Voorhees, we only got to see him for 3 weeks, and then he was benched for the rest of it after he came back from that injury because Patrick McCarry slid right in. So now you got a big question mark in the left guard. You got a medium-sized question mark in the right guard. I think Tate Ratledge could come in here and give you something that you have a little bit of certainty in, okay? He can make you a little bit more confident in this offensive line, at least way more than you are with Daniel Fa'alele and Andrew Voorhees holding down the center, okay? And if you do draft a guard like Tate Ratledge, I'd have a ton more confidence in this group as a whole. Let's talk wide receivers now. Say on the offensive side of the football, give me Kyle Williams, Washington State University out of Wazoo, wide receiver, and I'm just going to shoot you straight. I think that this might be the steal of the entire draft. Kyle Williams in the 4th round. Okay, I wouldn't mind if Baltimore addressed wide receiver a little bit earlier. This kind of was just the way the board fell, and I'm so thankful that it felt this way because I think Kyle Williams has a chance to be a really great talent. I've seen some guys, some NFL draft experts have Kyle Williams as the second best wideout in this entire thing, okay? And he was just one of those guys who just gave you a ton of production. 1,100 yards this last year at Wazoo, 14 touchdowns, 5 drops, and then 842 yards the year before, combined for over 2,000 yards and 131 catches in his last 2 seasons. Now, you might see the relative athletic score, and you might want to have a little bit of pause on it, okay? I would encourage you to not. Sure, he's a little bit smaller. Sure, he's not that big, but he ran a 4.440. That's incredibly fast. He's got medium-sized numbers. Other than that, I want to encourage you to just look at the tape, look at his game speed, look at his hands, look at what you need from him in this offense. I guarantee you he could be that person, okay? Because I love who you got right now at wide receiver. I really love the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. I love Rashad Bateman, love Zay Flowers. But I think this team needs a long-term option after Hopkins leaves to be that wide receiver 3, okay? Because Lord knows what's going to happen after this season. We don't know, alrighty? And so that's why I believe Kyle Williams would be a fantastic selection. All right, let's go into the 5th round. And give me Sai'vion Jones, defensive end out of LSU. This is actually the second of our 4th round picks, mind you. He had a decent year in 2024, 4.5 sacks. He had a ton of pressures, which I really, really like, 40 tackles. But what I love about Jones is like the testing is there. The ability is there. And I know I just told you to ignore that for Kyle Williams, but I'm telling you to look at it and see it as potential for Sai'vion Jones. I know this doesn't tell the entire story. What I really love is that 10-yard split. Really, that's when you need your edge rushers to be their fastest, and that was his fastest of all the splits in the 40-yard dash. He's got a really great broad jump. He has good length, right? He's a little bit over 6 foot. His arms are a lot longer, 33.5, and I absolutely love this prospect. I think he'd be a great fit with the Baltimore Ravens. Coming up, I got a spicy draft day trade. Moving up in the 5th. Giving up a little bit of the later picks, but you know what? Baltimore went into this thing with 11, so I think they can manage to have that happen. But before that, make sure you guys go check out our friends over at Game Time. If you need tickets to anything, basketball, football, baseball, comedy, they've got you covered. Game Time's the official ticketing partner of the Ravens Rundown. What I love about Game Time is they provide the easiest way to get tickets on short notice. You can save up to 60% buying off last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. I know Baltimore does not have a basketball team, but the playoffs are almost here, and it doesn't matter who you cheer for. Being in the building in that electric playoff atmosphere gives you memories you'll never forget for the rest of your life. Easy to find and buy NBA tickets and tickets for every kind of event in your area. Game Time has an awesome feature. It's called Zone Deals. Game Time Zone Deals allow customers to purchase tickets for a general area of a venue rather than specific seats, offering potential discounts and flexibility for last-minute ticket buyers. I absolutely love the Game Time app because it is just so easy to use. It's the only ticketing app that I have on my phone. And say I'm a big New York Knicks fan, right? They're in the playoffs right now against the Detroit Pistons. All I'd have to do, look up the Knicks. You see all the games listed there. Click into the one I want to go to. You get the stadium overview. You can press that awesome Game Time Picks button, which filters out all the fluff, shows you only the best deals on the best seats. And then very easily, you can see the view from your seat. You're checking out. Make sure to remember to use our code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase, okay? If you don't use it, then I don't know what to say. Go see our friends right now at Game Time and lock down your tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. The link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. So Minnesota goes into this thing with 4 draft picks. So I think if you're going to move up at some point in this draft, I think Minnesota is an easy target because they have such little. So I want to move up almost 40 spots in the 5th round because there's a prospect that I really like. I'll show you him in just a little bit. So you give Minnesota your 176, your 212, and your 243 in the 6th and 7th round. You move up almost 40 spots to the 5th round because a guy like R.J. Mickens is available. Safety out of the University of Clemson. And I think this is a guy genuinely who year one could give Ardarius Washington a run for his money in the starting position. And if not, he can just be such a solid rotational piece for late down situations for this team. Because R.J. Mickens is definitely more of a coverage safety. And that's why I'm so intrigued by him, because I think he'd fit in so well with this team because of that. Because you have Ardarius Washington, that strong safety position, because he's a true strong safety. He's one of those guys that, loves to hit people, loves to force fumbles. You saw him do it against Russell Wilson, loves to make contact on the goal line. You saw him do it against the Houston Texans on Christmas Day as well. And Mickens is definitely more of those guys you'd put in on that, 3rd and long, obvious pass situations. In 2024, he had an 89.8 coverage grade and a forced incompletion rate of 24.1%. This is a guy who can make plays in the passing game. And we all know the big chunk yardage that Baltimore let up last year absolutely killed them. I think you put R.J. Mickens in there, back in there with a guy like Kyle Hamilton just to his next, and this whole thing is absolutely changed, and I love it. This next one, we're actually going to go back-to-back big boys. We'll show you Ty Robinson here, defensive tackle out of Nebraska. And I think it's in that player 5 rank, Dylan, for that next selection, is Cameron Jackson, or like we call him, Cam Jackson, out of the University of Florida. There he is. And I really love going back-to-back big boys right here because this interior of the defensive line, it's got a lot of really good starters, but the depth just really isn't there, especially with the retirement of Michael Pierce. Not only are you losing a guy who's so solid and so big at stopping the run, but you're also losing a guy who can, get you interceptions like Michael Pierce can. But if you add Cam Jackson, you add Ty Robinson, you add some depth, you add some rotational guys in this front 5 to give you just a lot better depth at that position, which I think is what you need and what you want going into this draft, okay? Nandi BK took a little bit of a regression, but I think that's because he was being double-teamed almost every single rep. Well, Ty Robinson, Cameron Jackson, those 2 guys are guys that pan out. That's going to change. I really love Ty Robinson. I love his size. I love what he was able to do this last year at Nebraska. 42 pressures from the interior of the defensive line, 7 sacks as well. Now, Cam Jackson didn't put up quite the same numbers that Robinson did. He's definitely more of those guys that people are projecting that they're looking in the future and saying, if this happens, he can truly turn into something special. So I'm willing to take that shot on the Florida Gator. Weigh in for me in the comments section. What's your confidence level in Baltimore's defensive line? Scale it 1 to 100. I'm sure every single one of us went into last season a little bit more confident than we exited. Hopefully that changes during the NFL draft. But you let me know in the comment section down below. Again, scale it 1 to 100 for me. What's your confidence in Baltimore's D-line? Let's round this one out with a wide receiver. Give me Andrew Armstrong out of the University of Arkansas. And I kind of feel the same way about Armstrong as I did about Kyle Williams. I feel like you got two really great wide receivers at really great value because I think Armstrong is going to be an absolute steal. What he's able to do this past year with an incredibly rough quarterback situation at Arkansas, an incredibly rough playmaker situation at Arkansas, he was able to still produce ridiculously. He had over 1,100 yards this past year, only one touchdown, so you kind of hope he'd find pay dirt a little bit easier, but still, 764 years the year prior at Arkansas, and his final year at Texas A&M Commerce, over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. I really, really like Armstrong. I really think he's a guy who can do great things, make great strides in this wide receiver room, and just be a go-to guy, if the worst comes to worst, say Flowers gets hurt, Rashad Bateman gets hurt, I'd feel good about Andrew Armstrong stepping right in. So Mock Draft 8.0, here's the haul, ladies and gentlemen. James Pearce Jr., Benjamin Morrison, Tate Ratledge, Kyle Williams, Sai'vion Jones, R.J. Mickens, Ty Robinson, Cam Jackson, Andrew Armstrong. Grade it for me in the comment section down below by giving me an A, B, C, D, or F. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button before you get on out of here. Again, we'll have the best coverage for the NFL Draft coming up over this next week. It's just a week away. I could not be more excited about it. To lock us in right here at the Ravens Rundown. Subscribe.